Ever gotten lost, like really lost in a website? Like you're clicking and clicking and getting nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
We've all been there, right? It's like the worst. But today's deep dive is all about making sure your website is the exact opposite of that. We're diving into a blog post from Now Technology Systems. They're an Australian web design company, and they've got this like super relatable guide to the 7 phases of web design.
And it totally is relatable, especially if you're a small business owner trying to, like, juggle a million things at once.
Totally. So they really get that whole feeling of, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming. Where do I even start?
Right. They get it.
Which is nice because they're not just throwing a bunch of tech jargon at you.
Exactly. And that's what I love about how they approach this whole thing. It's like, before you even think about the what of your website, like what it's actually going to look like, they make sure you've got the why figured out.
Okay, so let's talk about that why. Phase 1 is gathering information. And we're not just talking about picking out your favorite font here.
No, not at all. This is about digging deep into, like, the core of your online presence. They lay out these 3 crucial questions, right? So first, what's the purpose of your website? Is it all about raking in those leads? Or is it more like your online storefront where you're selling products? Maybe it's a portfolio to show off your amazing work. Or maybe it's something else entirely.
Yeah, there are so many possibilities.
So many. And then the second question they hit on is, who are you actually talking to? Who are your people, you know?
Right, like who's your ideal visitor?
Exactly. What are they all about? What are their pain points? What are they searching for online? And then finally, you've got to define your goals.
Yeah, what are you actually trying to achieve with this website?
Exactly. Are you hoping to boost sales, get your brand out there, or maybe something totally unique? They make this really great analogy in the post. They say, this phase is like laying the foundation for a skyscraper.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, you mess up the foundation and the whole thing's going to be, like, seriously unstable.
And nobody wants a wonky website.
No way.
Speaking of wonky websites, I think we've all stumbled upon those sites where you're like clicking around aimlessly, right? You can't find what you need, and you just end up frustrated.
Oh, totally. Like, where am I? Where's the contact button?
Right. And that's where phase 2, planning, comes in to save the day.
Totally. And this is where they bring up this idea of a sitemap, which might sound kind of like technical and boring at first.
Okay, so break it down for us. What's a sitemap?
Basically, think of it like the blueprint for your website. You wouldn't start building a house without a blueprint, right? It's the same idea here. It maps out all the important pages on your website and how they're all connected, kind of like a GPS system, so your visitors can easily find their way around.
Oh, okay. So it's all about creating those clear navigation paths for user experience.
Exactly.
And that reminds me of something they said in the blog post. They said, if users can't find it, they certainly can't buy it.
Yes. So true.
Like, it's so obvious, but you'd be surprised how many websites miss the mark on that one.
It's all about making it super easy for people to find what they need without having to, like, jump through hoops or go on some kind of scavenger hunt.
Totally. No one wants to work that hard to give you their money.
Exactly. And you know what? This is where it starts to get really fun. Phase 3, design. This is where your website's personality shines through.
I know. This is the fun part, right? This is where we're talking fonts, colors, images, all the visual stuff.
I know, it's so exciting. But, like they emphasize, it's not just about making it look pretty.
There's more to it.
Oh, yeah. It's about crafting an experience for your visitors. Imagine you walk into a store, right? How do you feel when you walk in? Is it, like, super cluttered and overwhelming?
Ugh, the worst.
Or does it draw you in? Do you feel welcome? That's what we want for your website, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
They talk about wireframes and mock-ups, which are basically like sketches or blueprints for your website's layout. They let you play around with different looks and flows before you commit to anything.
Oh, that's smart. So it's like a trial run for your website's design.
Exactly. And they're big on clean, uncluttered designs that reflect your brand and, this is key, what your audience actually likes, which you figured out back in phase 1.
Right. So it all comes back to knowing your audience.
Always.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And this is where they make a really good point about simplicity.
Oh, yeah. They're all about keeping it simple. They say a cluttered website is like trying to order a coffee during rush hour. It's just like way too much going on.
And no one's happy.
No one.
Okay, so you've got your information gathered, your plan in place, your design is looking sleek and user-friendly, but how do you actually make it all come to life online?
Right, right. So now it's time to get a little technical. Phase 4. Development.
Okay, so this is where we hand it over to the tech wizards.
Pretty much. This is where all that design magic gets translated into actual code. The post mentions HTML, CSS. You can think of HTML as the bare bones, the structure of your website, and then CSS is what makes it look all pretty, like the clothes it
Oh,
wears.
I kind of get it.
And then a huge thing to emphasize, especially being in Australia, which is like super tech forward, is mobile responsiveness.
Oh my gosh, yes. That's huge. I feel like everything's mobile first these days.
It really is. I mean, think about it. How often are you on your phone versus like actually sitting down at a computer?
Oh my gosh, I'm on my phone constantly.
Right. And if
Yeah.
you land on a website and it's all like jumbled and impossible to navigate on your phone, you're gone.
Oh, 100%. I'm out of there.
And so many people are the same way.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've poured our heart into designing this beautiful, user-friendly website. The back end's all coded up and ready to go. What's next?
The home stretch. Now it's time for phase 5, testing and a delivery.
Okay, so this is where we make sure everything actually works, right?
Exactly. It's like when you buy a car. You don't just hand over the cash and drive off the lot without like taking it for a spin first. You got to make sure everything's running smoothly.
Right.
So they're really big on checking everything. Break-in links are like the worst. And then there's testing forms, making sure it looks good on all those different browsers. You want people to have a smooth, enjoyable experience, not end up frustrated.
Oh, yeah, because we've all been on those websites where it's like you click a link and it goes to a dead end,
Yeah.
or the formatting's all messed up, and it's like, come on, guys.
The worst.
It's like, get it together. It makes you wonder, did they even bother to check this thing?
Right. And it just makes you trust the website less, you know?
Totally. It's like, if they don't care enough to fix these obvious issues, do I really want to trust them with my business?
Exactly. It just screams unprofessional.
Okay, so we've gathered our information, we've planned it out, we've designed it, we've built it, we've tested it, we've launched it. We're done, right?
Oh, if only it were that simple.
They know there's more.
There's always more. This is where a lot of people think they're done, but they're not. It's phase 6, maintenance.
Okay, tell me this isn't like a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Oh, I wish. But they have this great analogy. They say, your website is like a garden. Sure, you can build it, you can plant the seeds, but if you don't water it, pull the weeds, and just generally, like, give it some love,
It's gonna die.
it's gonna wilt.
So what kind of maintenance are we talking about here?
Well, they break it down into things like updating your content regularly, because who wants to read the same old stuff all the time? And then there are security checks. With all the hackers and data breaches these days, you've got to stay on top of that. And backups.
Backups are important.
So important, because imagine losing all your hard work, all that content, all those images. It's like a nightmare.
Yeah, you don't want to start from scratch.
No way.
Okay, so we've covered gathering information, planning, design, development, testing, and even the ongoing care like a digital garden. That brings us to the final and arguably the most important phase.
The grand finale.
Phase 7, evaluation. This is where we get down to business and talk data, right?
Yes, this is where you get to see how your website's actually performing. They talk about diving into your website analytics, which might sound a little intimidating.
It does sound a little like, oh my gosh, spreadsheets.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be scary. Think of it like this. It's like having X-ray vision into how people are actually using your site.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So you can track things like user behavior, where people are clicking, what pages they're spending the most time on, if there are any pages they're like bouncing off of right away.
Interesting.
And then there are conversion rates, which tell you how many people are taking the action you want them to take. Are they buying your product? Are they signing up for your newsletter? Are they downloading that awesome guide you spend weeks creating? It's about connecting the dots between your efforts and actual results.
So it's about making data-driven decisions to continuously tweak and refine your website to make it even better.
Exactly. It's about making your website a high-performance machine.
I love that. I like to think of it as a well-oiled machine.
Yes. Constantly learning and adapting. That's the goal, right? A well-oiled, high-performing website. And what's cool about how now Technology Systems presents these phases is that it's not about making it seem scary or overwhelming. It's like they're giving you this roadmap, and you can just follow along at your own pace.
Right, like you don't have to be some kind of tech whiz to figure this out.
Exactly. And something else they emphasize throughout the post is this collaborative approach. Like, they're not just going to build a website for you. They want to build it with you.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. And I think that's super reassuring for people, you know, because it can feel kind of intimidating to hand over the reins to something as important as your website.
Absolutely. And speaking of handing over the reins, I know Now, Technology Systems is based in Australia, and I made a point of mentioning their understanding of Australian regulations, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, that's huge because you don't want to pour your heart and soul into building this amazing website only to find out it doesn't tick all the boxes from a legal standpoint.
Right, talk about a buzzkill.
Total buzzkill. But yeah, they get that. It's not just about making a pretty website, right? It's got to be functional and legal for crying out loud.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's got to be working hard for your business, too.
Yes, it's an investment.
Exactly. Okay, so you've walked us through all 7 phases from that initial, aha, I need a website moment, all the way to the ongoing care and feeding of this digital being you've created. I'm curious, from your experience, is there a phase where you see people getting tripped up the most?
Ooh, that's a good question. I see it all the time, and it's usually the planning phase. People get so caught up in the excitement of the design, like all the colors and the fonts, that they kind of skip over that crucial planning stage.
It's like they want to go straight to decorating before they even have the walls built.
Exactly. And then they end up with a website that might look really pretty, but it's impossible to navigate.
And then people are bouncing off left and right because they're frustrated.
It's true. And we only have a few seconds to capture someone's attention online, right?
Oh my gosh, it's like milliseconds these days.
It really is. So if it's not clear, if it's not easy to use, they're gone.
So true.
But, on the flip side of that, I think the design phase is where people get the most excited. It's like they finally get to unleash their inner artist and bring their vision to life.
It's like that Project Runway moment when they're like, look at my website, it's fabulous.
Exactly.
And there are so many cool tools and technologies available now. It's kind of mind-blowing.
It is. You can do so much these days. Create these really immersive experiences, play around with animations, experiment with different layouts. It's a fun time to be a web designer for sure. So fun. But as we touched on earlier, it's about striking that balance, right? You want it to be creative and eye-catching, but it also needs to be functional and user-friendly.
It does. It's like that whole form follows function thing. You can have a website that's like a work of art, but if it's a nightmare to use, no one's going to stick around to appreciate it.
Exactly. And that's where having a skilled web design team in your corner can make all the difference, right? They can help you navigate those tricky waters.
Totally. Because they've been there, done that, and they know how to create a website that's both beautiful and functional.
And that's something now Technology Systems really seems to get from what I've seen. They have this knack for taking a client's vision and turning it into a website that not only looks incredible, but also gets results. Exactly. And speaking of getting results, can we circle back to mobile responsiveness for a sec?
Oh yeah, please. It's so important.
It's crucial. I know we've mentioned it a few times, but I just can't stress enough how important it is in this day and age. It's if your website isn't mobile friendly in 2024.
What are you even doing?
I know, right? It's you're missing out on half your potential customers.
At least.
Right. I mean, think about your own browsing habits. How often are you on your phone compared to your computer?
Oh my gosh, 99% of the time.
Right. And I think it's safe to say a lot of people are in the same boat.
Absolutely. And honestly, if I land on a website and it's not mobile friendly, I'm out of there.
Oh, me too.
I don't have the patience to be pinching and zooming and scrolling sideways. It's just not a good experience.
It's the worst. And it's not just about making sure it technically fits on a smaller screen. It's about optimizing the entire experience for mobile. Things like site speed, navigation.
They become even more important on mobile. Right.
Absolutely. It's you've got to make it so easy, so intuitive that people can find what they're looking for with one hand while they're, on the go.
While they're wrangling a toddler and trying to hail a cab.
Exactly. No pressure.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the wild world of web design, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to walk away with today?
Honestly, don't let the whole process freak you out. Now, Technology Systems really nailed it with this blog post. They break it down into these manageable steps, so it feels way less overwhelming.
Right, it's okay, I can do this.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to go it alone. There are experts out there, like Now Technology Systems, who can guide you through the whole process.
And they made a point of emphasizing that this isn't a one-and-done kind of thing. Your website is a living, breathing thing that needs ongoing attention.
Totally. It's like that whole garden analogy we were talking about earlier. You don't just plant a garden and then forget about it.
You got to keep watering it.
You got to pull the weeds, give it some love. Otherwise, it's just going to wither and die, and no one wants a dead website on their hands.
So true. Okay, Before we let you go, we'd like to leave our listeners with a little food for thought. If you could wave your magic wand and create your dream website, like no limitations, what's that one feature or element that you're most excited about bringing to life?
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
a tough one. You know what? I'd say I'm all about creating an experience, like something that goes beyond just words and pictures on a screen, something that really draws people in and makes them feel something.
I love that.
Maybe some kind of interactive element, or maybe it's just a really well-told story.
Ooh, I like where you're going with this. I think
Yeah.
for me, it'd be all about those subtle details, like the micro interactions and animations that just add that extra layer of delight.
Yes, those little touches make such a difference.
They really do. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Huge thanks to Now Technology Systems for the inspiration. We'll be sure to link to their blog post in the show notes so you can check them out.
Definitely check them out.
And if you enjoyed today's deep dive, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. We love hearing from you. Until next time, happy website building.